Okay, hello everyone. Glad to see y'all, and thanks for having me. As you just heard a little bit of my background, I spent 10 years at the American Heart Association, and before that, I've always been involved in health-related nonprofit organizations. And so, while I am now at an organization that represents the business community and is much broader than just the healthcare community, I have just a deep passion and understanding of why heart health and overall health and well-being, mental health, it's also interconnected and it's all important in its own pieces. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about who is the Greater Houston Partnership, why do we care about healthcare, why is it one of our priorities inside the organization, and what's the work that the business community is doing right now. So let's see. Click the arrow. Okay, so understanding who is the partnership. You just heard it's the premier business organization for the region. It does cover a 12-county region, so beyond Harris County, beyond just Houston for us. If you think about it, it is the kind of traditional chamber economic development organization, but also we have a strong international arm in the World Trade Association for the region. And so there are a lot of different components to the partnership, and not just singularly focused on Houston or these 12 counties. We know there's influence globally when it comes to the work that happens for the business community and for this region. Part of the partnership, we have a healthcare advisory committee. It is an advisory level committee because of its importance inside the organization. And we have Dr. Tony Lynn, who I'm sure many of you in this room know Tony. He chairs this for us and is a member of our board of directors and our executive committee at the partnership. And so each year, the chair rotates on this, but Dr. Lynn has been a part of this now for 2 years, really just digging in deep to help to focus and prioritize the work of the partnership as it relates to health and healthcare. We know that quality and efficient healthcare access is incredibly important to our workforce, to the business community, to being able to recruit additional people into this region. So let me just kind of set the stage a little bit more. These are probably all facts and figures I don't have to read to anybody in this room because you already know it. You live it every single day and you know the broader impact of the Houston region. But just putting it in perspective, I mean, we have a total employment of 3.18 million people in the region. This is so important to remember the influence that health and healthcare has on just the general population that goes far beyond this industry. Texas Medical Center, we're sitting right here in it, don't have to read these to you, and this is only a part of the healthcare industry, but a huge influencing factor in this. And so it sets the stage for why does the Greater Houston Partnership, a business nonprofit organization, care so much about the state of health for our region? So I'm going to fast forward you to what we're doing right now and how it came to be, because it wasn't a straight line process and it's not something that there's a clear roadmap moving forward. We are in the middle of this deep work right now, and so I'll tell you more about what that means. This region is known globally, especially the healthcare industry, for innovation, breakthrough, strong investments, really leading to cutting-edge treatment that people receive all over the world. And because of that, when our healthcare committee was looking at some of the impacts of the pandemic, right in the middle of the pandemic, I mean, burnout, retention, they were really high priorities. And because it was the healthcare committee, became laser focused on people leaving the field, the healthcare field, and what could the partnership and the business community do to leverage resources for that? Well, what I'll tell you is that it quickly shifted because everybody who is on this committee, the committee goes beyond the healthcare industry. We have business leaders, we have HR professionals that care about their employees, that want to know more about what's happening. It shifted for us to really focus more on a broader outlook for our work. So we knew that the pandemic didn't create these issues. They exacerbated these issues. Everybody in this room knows that. it was putting a large burden on the workforce. So mental health was putting an incredibly large burden. I remember the first conversation I had with one of our board members just a couple of months into the pandemic, and it's a major law firm, and he said to me, "We've never experienced what we're experiencing right now, and we don't know what to do about it. What can the partnership do to bring this conversation to more people and get folks that can collaborate on this?" At the time, what we did was put up a webinar, an informational session where we had people from the healthcare industry, from the mental health, and an employer to really talk about what's going on right now, how's the role of the employer shifting in the wake of the pandemic, and the mental health issues that we're seeing. So that's really kind of the origin story of why and where the mental health efforts started inside of the partnership. So as numbers and trends became more and more alarming, we knew that something needed to be done. But something to know about the partnership is that we step into spaces that we can uniquely make an impact. We don't want to duplicate efforts. If anything, we want to make sure that we are convening the people who have expertise in areas to make sure that we're working on solutions together. So we expanded our thinking about mental health and increasing the work across the region. And we had several stakeholders that came together to really influence this work. So just to name a few, Meadows Mental Health, Harris Center, the Network of Behavioral Health Providers, Southern Smoke Foundation. These are groups that came together to really influence what could be done for the business community. Best we could find out, nobody was looking into mental health as it relates to workforce. So there was a missing piece that the partnership could fit into, and that was really the green light to move this work forward. So as one of our strengths is being a connector and a convener, as I mentioned. So over the balance of 2023 and into 2024, really started to leverage the member community, which is not just business. You know, we have educators, we have nonprofit organizations, we have community leaders, government entities that are all members of the partnership that work together on this work. So things that we were hearing that really helped us to move forward in the work were that everything had changed so quickly, employers didn't know how their role needed to shift as it related to mental health and employee health and wellness. And they were really looking for forums where they could figure out new best practices, benchmarks. What are people doing that's working? What are some of the needs that other companies have that we could leverage inside of there? So it led us to the beginning of 2024. The timing was perfect, and it felt like the timing was now. We had a new board chair who came in and said one of his priorities, he wanted to be mental health. So for anyone who heard or participated in the partnership's annual meeting just at the beginning of this year, you heard that that was an important point that our chair was leveraging, was that we really needed to lean into the mental health of the community because it's causing other impacts, not just in the business, but we know mental health, physical health, behavioral health, all of these things are connected. And mental health is where the employers could play a role that they had not previously been playing. So a lot of the work was really driven by BP and Deloitte in particular. They wanted to commission a study with the business community to better understand what was happening as it pertains to mental health. So that helped us really get a 30,000-foot view of the issue. It was never meant to be exhaustive, but what it did help us do was create this organizational wellness index approach. So member companies participated in a survey, and as you can see here, as they participated, we were really looking at, what's the infrastructure of your wellness approach? What analytics are you using to determine needs and drive outcomes? And you can see here, talent management, what's the culture? And where does this organization feel that they have a social responsibility to this work? Of the participants, we really saw that the results showed progressive. And I'll tell you, I mentioned earlier, this wasn't meant to be exhaustive. Some could argue the people that participated in the survey probably had great programs and great things that they wanted to share, and so they felt compelled to participate, and others who maybe didn't feel as advanced, didn't feel as comfortable participating. What it told us is that there's a conversation happening, and there's also work that needs to be accelerated in this area. We have a really dedicated business community who wants to get things like this right. I was even talking to our head of HR at the partnership, and she was at a group meeting with peer group yesterday, and she said they went around the group and said, tell me your top 3 issues inside the workplace right now. And the 5 people that went before her all had mental health somewhere in the top 3. It just continues to be something that the business community knows needs to be a priority, but doesn't have all of the answers yet, and so they're working to figure it out. The other thing that I'll point out about this is that when you do studies like this and you start to work down this path, you realize that there are a lot of missing pieces, and there are a lot of people who are doing work that need to come together to communicate and figure out how to do it together. So that's some of what we have done as well. And you're going to hear from my colleague over at the Center for Houston's Future in just a little bit to go a little bit deeper into some of the work that they're doing too. And I share that because this is all connected. You know, the partnership is not working in a silo on this. It's really leveraging all of the communities to figure out how do we go to transformational, and the people who were not inspired to take this because perhaps they're at foundational or emerging, how do we find them and get them to advance and accelerate on this timeline? So knowing that, where do we go from here? We had these survey results were shared at our Future of Healthcare event just earlier this year. And on September 10th, there is a group coming together to talk about where we go from here. So that group, I skipped over this, but this is some of what we learned, is that there are some successes in this area, and there are also some key shortcomings. So I'll point to the key shortcomings, because tracking and analyzing the data is something that we hear from the business community they want help with. They got to figure out, how do we track this? How do we analyze this? How do we use it inside of our companies? And what are the dedicated resources that we need for this information? So going back to where do we go from here? So we need to leverage our community resources. That comes from people who are already doing this work, educators, healthcare leaders, investors, elected officials. You know, there's a large group of stakeholders that need to come together so we can help get this right for the business community. And the goal you see here is just we want to advance mental health and well-being in the Houston region's workforce so that we can continue to be a region that attracts quality people, that they know the business community, the healthcare community, everybody's working together to make this a great place to live, work, raise your family, do business. And we have such a strong reputation around the world. It's, you know, how do we lean into that to make it even stronger? So as I mentioned, the group is coming together in September. We do not have the entire roadmap worked out, but it's pretty exciting, the point that we are in right now, that there's a lot of conversation happening around this. And I would encourage anybody in this room who wants to lend expertise, get involved in the conversation, let us know, because we will be stronger as more people are participating and helping to influence what happens next as it relates to the employer's role in supporting mental health, overall health and well-being in the workplace. So with that, I will conclude and just put that call to action out there that if you have expertise to be able to provide, if you have a network that you want to leverage and get involved in this conversation, I hope that you will. You know, the strength of the partnership comes from our ability to bring the right people in the right room at the right time to solve big problems for our region. And this is one of those big problems for our region that everybody in this room can appreciate and can understand the impact that it has on overall heart health and especially on heart health. So appreciate your time. And I will pass it back so that we can also hear from my colleague at the center.